Awesome. Yeah, finally. After a very long technical glitch, our sir is here with us. Dear viewers, this is Sir Rituraj Phukan, who is a founder of Indigenous Peoples Climate Justice Forum. He also represents National Coordinator. He's also a representative at National Coordinator for Biodiversity, the Climate Reality Project India. He also represents National Coordinator CCI, COO Work for Water, and also is a General Secretary at Green Guard Nature Organization. I request Sir to present on the conference that we are organizing. The screen is yours, sir.
Thank you. First of all, okay, am I audible?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so sorry to keep all the viewers waiting. I think we had a serious technical issue with the request not coming through, and I'm trying to get connected on multiple devices. So finally we are here, and thank you for inviting me for this wonderful initiative, and most important in these times, I think this is probably the first time I'm involving in something that's hosted out of Manipur on the on the environment sector, especially in the last 1 year since COVID. We have had a lot of mobilization with different groups across the region, and the gravity. I'm sure you already have had some discussions over the last few days. We have had a lot of distinguished speakers as well, and I don't know what are the areas being covered, but I would definitely talk about biodiversity first of all, just not because biodiversity rich Northeast, how rich the Northeast is in terms of biodiversity, but also for the fact that the lives and the cultures of all our people here in the Northeast, all the different communities that live here, our lives and cultures are intertwined with the biodiversity around us.
Excuse me, sir. So if you don't
Yeah.
mind, please hold the mic a little bit near.
Oh,
The
okay.
voice is very low. Yeah.
Is this okay?
A bit.
Maybe I should switch off the
Yeah, it's better now.
handset. Is this okay? Is
Yeah,
this fine?
very clear. Thank you.
You can hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. No, I cannot hear. That's the issue. Okay. I am audible, am I?
Yeah, very audible.
But I cannot hear now. That's the issue. Let me try putting back the headphone on just a
Yeah,
moment.
sure.
Okay. Is this better by any chance?
Yes, a bit better than before, but it was better without the headphone.
But I cannot hear at all if I take off the headphone.
Sir, yeah, please continue. I think we can manage with that volume.
Let's give it one more chance.
So as we are saying, biodiversity for us is just not the animals and the birds and the vegetation. For us, I feel for all the various ethnic groups around Northeast India, our lives are intertwined with the biodiversity around us. Our culture depends on it, and we thrive in the biodiversity. we are not a region which has uh, evolved with monoculture. So when we talk about oil palm, we are not only talking about an alien species, but we are talking about an entire system where you are trying to replace the native biodiversity, the richness of various species. Forget about the rhinos and tigers and elephants, but think about all the numerous species of smaller flora and fauna that's abundant in this region, the medicinal plants. Uh, we have new kinds of uh, snakes been discovered here. We have had a few days back, one of my friends discovered a butterfly for the first time in Arunachal Pradesh. We are discovering new species of insects and all kinds of even a few years back a new kind of primate was found here. So there is so much of abundance here that nature has endowed us with. We cannot let that be replaced by monoculture of oil palm. Why do we need oil palm? Are we dependent on oil palm? I don't know of any community in Northeast India who needs oil palm for any reason. We do not need. Firstly, why is it now been thrust upon us? Because everybody knows that Northeast is very suitable in terms of productivity. Okay, if the government of India thinks that oil palm production needs to be scaled up to meet the requirements of the country, why not scale it up where it is already been successfully harvested, like Telangana? Why you want to involve the Northeast or Andamans here? Because I feel the factor here is that the climatic conditions in Northeast India probably will ensure more productivity. Because it's quite similar to Malaysia and Indonesia, we have rainforests as well. So I think that entire decision is based upon exploiting the climatic conditions. But will the climatic conditions remain the same if we replace the vegetation that sustains it with an alien species, alien monoculture, which we do not require? Obviously not. I have been saying this in many forums. We do not want the Hulak gibbon or the golden langur or any of the Fayer's leaf monkey or any of the species of primates that are unique to Northeast India to meet the fate of the orangutan. The orangutan's disappearance, its road to extinction is quite easily linked to the start of the palm oil story in these countries. We do not want that to happen here. Next, we have already seen the example. I am sure some of the speakers must have dwelt on the case of Bhutan, Mizoram, where villagers have abandoned oil palm after having uh, practiced it for some years. So what does that mean? If the people here themselves have experienced it on a pilot basis, if we take that Mizoram experience to be a pilot basis, and then abandon it because they found it unsuitable, they found that water ran dry in the hill streams, then I think this is a case of grave injustice and exploitation. We talk about climate justice here. We talk about how communities need to adapt to the changing climate, but you want to aggravate the situation by thrusting people upon, thrusting this oil palm upon people. So in a few years, the people who are now self-sustaining, who have abundance of water and natural resources, maybe even food in the biodiversity around them, in a few years they will become dependent on you because the water will run dry, the palm oil experiment would have failed, the climate would have changed, and the people will be left at your mercy. Do you want to turn the Northeast into a dependency of, uh, the central government who survives on handouts? No. We want that the biodiversity loss, the forest cover loss, which we recently read about, that has happened here should be checked. It should be restored. Degraded areas should be restored so that biodiversity can flourish, so that the water security is ensured, and the food is ensured, and then all the valuable resources that are there still undiscovered in terms of biodiversity as well as medicines and uh, the potential of tourism, nature-based solutions, all of these are yet to be uh, exploited in a way where local communities can benefit. We do not want oil palm to feed the mills of big multinationals in some other state. We do not want that. I think the people of the Northeast should come together and oppose this tooth and nail. And most importantly, uh, the youth should make their voice heard. We haven't seen the kind of mobilization on oil palm as we saw during the EIA, draft EIA proposals last year. Uh, that is unfortunate. I mean, that should be happening now as well. And most importantly, we should hold each of our public representatives accountable. Each of us must reach out to our MLAs and MPs and ask them to oppose this dumping of a alien invasive species on our lands, which is going to uh, add to all the problems. I think, if they are talking about wastelands, they have identified wastelands. I have been working on this sector for a long, long time. I know there are no wastelands in nature. There are no wastelands in Northeast India. Believe me, each patch of grassland, each body of water, each tree sustains many, many life forms. How can anybody say that nature produces a wasteland which now, can be used for planting oil palm? That is just a fallacy that we must not allow to be, thrust upon us. And in every way possible, I thank the media for coming up on this. Actually, I think more than activism, it is the media which has been sustaining this oil palm movement this time in the last couple of months. But this alone won't do. Our voices need to be heard across the region. Therefore, I really thank the organizers today for taking this up in a very sustained way. I think you are having it on 4 consecutive Sundays, so which
I think we lost.
are on social media, and that you are doing, and that's uh, fantastic as well. Uh, However, I would like this to be, if possible, we can have a two-way conversation. So if there are any questions, maybe we can talk about it. Oh, yeah. Before that, of course, lastly, the topic of climate change. We know that the Northeast is sitting on a cusp of an impending climate crisis. The eastern Himalayas are warming much faster than even the rest of the Himalayas, so it is one of the fastest warming regions uh, in the country as well as on the entire planet. We might be looking at future water wars as well. Uh, and considering all of this, we must prepare. And the way to go ahead is to restore wild areas to ensure that biodiversity is protected, and look at nature-based solutions, and not to talk about land use change, which again is going to worsen the climate crisis, is going to add much more in terms of carbon pollution, when the areas are cleared for plantation of oil plants. So I think it's not only immoral, but it's also illegal. You have made, as a government, so many commitments to, uh, you know, check this, contribute to the fight against climate change, but at the same time, you cannot be propagating things that will lead to destruction of our forest, our natural resources. Yeah, so if there are any questions, I'll be very happy to take. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If any of the viewers have questions, then please do drop into in the comment section. Um, I I don't think we have a question, but yeah, the thing is, the awareness program that we have taken up today, along with um, many other groups joined together, we are really trying to raise a voice to let people really be aware of what oil palm cultivation is about to bring to Northeast India. And this is a very important step. The yes, giving the options to people whether they would like to take up oil cultivation or palm cultivation or not is solely in their hands. But giving a bigger picture of what it will be after 10-20 years is very important, and I think we all are trying to address the picture here. Uh, am I audible or?
Yeah, you are audible. I can hear you.
So I have a question here from Cecile Thaunaujam. What do you have to say about the financial assistance and subsidies the government has promised to provide to the farmers?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think uh, despite the experience of farmers in Mizoram, many of the local communities here uh, are looking at the huge amounts that have been promised to them as the motivation, right? Uh, Now we have to see whether any of the communities who have been cultivating oil palm in Mizoram and in different districts of Assam, like Goalpara, since the last few years have had really experienced any of the benefits that have been promised. And at the same time, it is also very important to uh, the kind of environmental damages that can result from oil palm and then balance them against the uh, promises that have been made by the government. And to convey that, I think the media will play a big part, and so will such or civil society initiatives as has been organized today. Uh, Now let me give you an example. Uh, Last year when the draft EIA movement was going on, there was this decision to start to renew coal mining license in Dihing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuary, now which has been upgraded to National Park in Assam. And that time, one reporter went to one of the villages quite next to the rainforest, Dihing Patkai, and a villager came into the picture and informed that he is only asking two things of the government. Number one, for power to be provided, electricity to be provided to his village. And number two, to make water available, to provide water to his village. Now, this really struck me because we are talking about coal mining, which is often associated with electricity, and the place where it is been uh, where the coal mine, where the coal is being taken from, the nearest village did not have power, even after nearly 100 years of coal mining. Number two, it's next to a rainforest, and yet the village has run out of water, which is almost unbelievable. Something that nature had endowed upon the area for millennia had been totally denuded of the water sources in just 70, 80 years of mining, coal mining. So who is this development for? Who are the beneficiaries? There may be a 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people who have got employment there or are associated in indirect employment in some way. But is it worth it? Is it worth uh, trusting such a future on your children and the generations to come later? I do not think you can compensate the villagers, the farmers, by any amount of money by the kind of damage that is going to be caused by uh, destroying the natural biodiversity and practicing something that is basically extractive. When you plant oil palm, you are not adding to the greenery. You are not adding to the forested area. What you are doing is you are introducing a species which is not natural here and which is not going to be useful for any biodiversity. Rather, it is like coal mining, going to be very water dependent, and it's going to use up most of the vital water resources, which for now may be abundant for a region, but is projected to be one of the areas where we are going to have water crisis in the future, even possibly water wars. So I think, Cecil, no amount of compensation, no amount of money should be given to the villagers, and this is really a wrong way of involving them in this, because again it comes as a question of climate justice, because in the future these villagers will become dependent on handouts. So you're destroying their sustainability, basically. You're destroying their culture. You're destroying the entire past and future. Thank you.
And basically, these plantations are also called green deserts because of the way it, uses the land and how it makes unsuitable for plantation further.
Exactly.
Yeah, and taking this point very seriously, Northeast region has been, a very important biodiversity hotspot of the country. So they planning to use the Northeast forest is a very vicious scheme for the whole country. Not only the whole country, but looking broadly, it's like destroying the whole climate, environmental, um, uh, you know, uh, yeah. Let's.
The
There is
balance,
another question.
ecosystem balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. There is another question from Juliana Kashyap. I had a question. There are many people from government saying that the palm cultivation will provide employment and income generation to the communities. So, what are your views on that?
I think I have partly answered the question to the, with my answer to the earlier ones. Uh, Number one, is this income generation worth the devastation that is going to be caused to the environment? The destruction of the biodiversity, the loss of cultural identities. What we be without the cultural identities, which itself is derived from the biodiversity around us? Are we going to be singing songs about oil palm in the future? Are we going to have dances devoted to how palm oil, uh, you know, uh, is sustaining us? No, it is not possible, because as we have all discussed, it is not a sustainable farming practice at all. Secondly, our forefathers have not seen that palm oil. I mean, I'm talking about the cultural aspect here. Where does it fit into our culture? Where does it fit into our traditions? No. Why do we do oil on a scale? Is the demand for India such that we need to introduce new areas here? No. Well, there are other ways of providing employment. There are so many other nature-based solutions coming up. Nature itself is the example of a that has been recognize the recent years. Number one of the stated goal of COP26 this year, which is going to start next week in Glasgow, is that communities need to adapt, and to do that, we have to develop resilience, and to do that, we have to restore ecosystems to ensure that these communities who have grown up with the biodiversity around them, which sustains their lives and livelihoods and their traditions and cultures, uh, provides them with food, water, good health, uh, and all of it must be protected and restored, right? That is one of the goals of COP26. And before that, the IPBES, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Science-Based uh, Biodiversity, IPBES actually had last year declared that that about 70% of the last remaining natural spaces on Earth are either inhabited, managed, or protected by indigenous communities, and which incidentally includes the entire Northeast. So uh, it is very important that we, as a region, are given the the authority, the power, and the right to decide what we want to do with our lands, what we want to, whether we want to protect our cultures and identities, has to be our decision. We cannot have it thrust upon us. Uh, there are many development models that are now being seen as much more sustainable than what was being followed, and definitely nature is at the heart of it all. As a biodiversity hotspot, as one of the most biodiversity rich areas in the entire world, I think we have the resources to show how it is done. We have the resilience of the communities who have already experienced climate change impacts for a few years. We have the experience, we have enough diversity and traditional knowledge. Uh, I am sure you have had discussions about resilience of different communities. So all that needs to be uh, highlighted to the global community so that we emerge as a hub for climate justice, for climate action, for resilience, and for nature-based solutions. Thank you.
Again, there's another question from Juliana Kashyap. Regarding the EIA, when we think that SIA gives significance to whether any such development activity should take place, then why the scoping and assessment turns political in itself?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Regarding the EIA, when we
Yeah.
think that SIA gives justification to whether any such development activity should take place, then why the scoping and assessment turns political in itself?
Well, the answer is obviously in the resources, right? Uh, we have so much of natural resources here, and perhaps we politically we are perceived as a weak region. Perhaps politically we are perceived by the central government as uh, a region which could be molded easily, which could be made compatible with the ideas of governance and development that the central government wants to propagate. Uh, Otherwise, I do not see why something that we don't even want, which is not uh, our requirement, can be thrust upon us at the cost of what is naturally, rightfully ours.
Yeah. I think that answers the question, Juliana Kashyap. Uh, if you guys have more questions to ask, then please do drop in the comment section. I think we are done with the question session. And yeah, I would be very glad to say that we are very obliged to have Sir with us in this conference. It is this conference as a part of awareness program has been organized by Mingsel Foundation with Anouba Meerol and Center for Research and Advocacy Manipur, and it's supported by Decolonial Indigenous Meme and Mayang Unity. I hope we bring a very positive change in this awareness program, letting people understand, letting people learn how palm oil cultivation have impacted its various positive and negative impacts, what they should be considering when they are ready to take plantation seriously. Uh, and also to take a very decisive, uh, you know, uh, decision when coming to this topic. It's very sensitive one, which really concerns our environment, concerns our ecology. It's going to impact socially, culturally, everywhere. So I think each and every one of us, regardless of being a mainlander or a native northeasterner, we should really be concerned on this. We should really be concerned on this oil palm cultivation scheme that the government have launched. Um, yeah, and I think we all should take the sustainable path, the practices which don't hurt those people who have their livelihood dependent on forest areas. Because Northeast, we all know, is like the region is all covered by forests, and people mainly like 70%, more than 70% of people depend on forest produce and forest products. So we all should be really, really mindful while deciding whether to let the government be, you know, mm, uh, implement the oil palm scheme here in Northeast. Uh, Thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much for making this conference a whole successful. I thank again, Sir. Um, Thank you for joining us again. And I hope we had a very fun session, learning lots of things from you and other two speakers. Uh, I think we will end the session here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and all the best, and keep up the great work. Thank you to all the listeners as well.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir. Thank you. Thank you.